Welcome to A Seat at the Table, the KAS podcast on women's empowerment across the Middle East. The podcast will host solutions-oriented women and provide them the platform to share practical advice, insights, and takeaways. When we had spoken before the episode aired, we also talked about how when people engage in the storytelling process, something in them awakens, something in them changes, and they start to see their own stories differently. And I just want to push a little bit harder to link this inner transformational process with what ends up being the activity of community building and state building. So if you could tell us a little bit more about what you've seen through your projects, I think that would be really helpful.
Okay, I'll start from the very beginning. When we first got involved heavily in oral histories, we brought in an expert. That expert happened to be British, not an Arab. Now we've trained quite a few Arabs. They are present and available. But Rob was a wonderful knowledge sharer. And however, given the background of freedom of expression in the UK and in Europe, his advice was your first question should be as open as possible when you're encouraging somebody to speak. And we sat and we thought about it, open as possible. So if we want to document a story about music, you want to tell them, what's your relationship with music? And I told him, I don't think that's going to work in this region because people are skeptical and afraid, understandably so, because political or government monitoring in many Arab countries is a very real thing. Surveillance and censorship and whatnot. And so I said, if we make it very broad, they're going to wonder, A, what's the right answer? Because they always want to please people. And B, what do they want from me? Suspicion. So we said, I think it needs to be as specific as possible, a relation, like a specific instant in time, your the first memory of a song you heard. And Rob was wonderful about it. He said, yeah, because there's the idea of not being arrogant, of realizing you don't know everything, you don't know different cultures. And so that's what we started doing, very, very specific with questions. And then you follow, interviewing it's not an easy thing to do. 1 hour can tire you if you're doing it properly because you're listening. So step one, the interviewee feels heard. And knowing this region, people have not felt heard. That's why 2011 was such a big explosion of expression and excitement, because people suddenly felt heard. Everyone around the world wanted to know, what do these people in the Arab world, what do they have to say? And that was exciting and empowering, empowering for the revolution en masse, millions of people, and empowering for the individual. And so with time, over the course of the interview, the 1 or 2 hour interview, you can see that people relax a bit more, because at first they're either thinking, I want to please the interviewer, what do they want me to say? Like they need a sound bite, or what do they want from me? So building trust, that's why we actually have a lot of time spent in pre-production. People think, you just go, you interview someone, it's done, you transcribe. But if you want authenticity, credibility, trust, build a relationship with these people, which we must, because we are hoping to not represent them, but give them the space to represent themselves. And so longevity in the relationship is also very important. So I think I may have segued a few times, Lara, sorry, that's the nature of storytelling. One story leads to another. But yes, what you're asking me is how it impacts the interviewee. You ask somebody what is their vision for peace in Syria, which is basically our primary question for the oral history collection for Collective Asuriyat. And not that they haven't thought about it in general, because that's all they've been doing for 10 years, working on that concept. But they now need to articulate it in 2 or 3 sentences. That means they need to consider their choice of words, their tone, to critically engage with other people that may be, they're no longer behind closed doors or sitting around a table having a focus group discussion. No, they're They're going to present their thoughts in a way that will be documented and online. You know, the internet has a long memory. And so that process of critical thinking and choosing the right words is also impactful for the interviewees.
Reem?
For those sharing their story.
May I ask you about the content of the message? Is it a cognitive message? Is it an effective message, or a combination of both?
We don't decide that, Hamad. It's very important that it be an authentic story. So in pre-production, we tell everybody what you share has to be part of your experience. You can analyze your own experience. You can reflect on your own experience. But we don't want political analysis of what's going on. So our collection of human rights abuses in Libya, each individual is reflecting on the events of the day in relation to that. So that what's happening is we have no agenda, no bottom line, no political angle. As individuals, everybody has political beliefs. But as Shabb.org, everybody is welcome, because no matter your political beliefs, if we want a society that is peaceful, where people can cohabit, where development can happen, everybody has to be heard. I feel very passionately about that as an individual and as a story curator, despite my own personal political beliefs and leanings, which everyone has, and we have to respect that. So ultimately, we have no agenda, we have no one size or format fits all. It's a conversation, and you have to be really engaged in it. You have to want to hear what that person is saying, pick up on the details, so that whoever's listening to the story or reading the transcript can almost visualize that they were there. Sometimes we do record video, but we found for two reasons we're lessening video. In Libya, for example, we went into the prison cell that one man spent 20 years in and filmed the interview there. Wow. These are very powerful things, and we encourage filmmakers and journalists to use the material we have as ideas so that they can do that. But for us, if we want to expand, it's more efficient for us to record 100 audio stories than try to create 10 beautiful video stories. And then we let the professionals in filmmaking and journalism, etc., do the rest of it. So yeah, that's in summary, Hamad, no agenda, just personal stories that create connections.
Politics is an art of communicating, art of sending messages, art of creating teamwork, art of creating good citizens, the art of creating a good country for all. So this is politics. And if you want to reach your aims, for example, as president of the order, I was entrusted to put the order at the decision-making table. So I had to play the political game. For example, create coalitions with strong people, have good communication, use the media, hit the nail when it's hot, put short-term, long-term plans, follow up, develop the nurses, develop the team. So I was working on different levels, and of course this needs time. My term was for 3 years. 3 years are a short period of time because Rome was not built in one day. So change needs time, and we need to continue with the same approach so that we later on be able to introduce the idea of that, yes, you are capable to be a leader, because leadership is responsibility, and not everyone would like to be in that position.
100%. انطلاقا من عم تقولي، انا عندي سؤال لمدام غانم على موضوع، يعني اذا عم نحكي نحن مثل ما عم تفضلت وحكيت دكتور دوميت، انه التغيير الحقيقي يتطلب قادة، وقادة يعني من الاجيال القادمة، من الاجيال اللي عم تكون من خلال المناهج التربوية، ولا سيما بالبرامج التربوية اللي تعنى بموضوع الهيلث كير، عم تتدرب وعم تتحضر لموضوع انها تاخد كمان مثل ما قال الدكتور دوميت تاخد الكرسي تبعيتها وتحضرها معها على الطاولة. سؤالي لإلك هو كيف هيدا الدور اللي عم نعمل على مستوى النقابات المحلية نقدر نحوله تيصير عمل على مستوى الجمعيات الدولية والعمل على مستوى السياسات العامة يلي من خلال خبرتك بهالمجال عم نقدر نحن نطلعها إن كان بسوريا وإن كان بالعالم العربي.
Okay. Talking about leadership is very important, especially when it comes to the Arab region. And for the leadership to grow or to appear, we need a free political environment. And I think this is essential in our struggle for democracy in the Arab region. So yes, I agree that politics is not lying, it's not stealing. But this is lack of politics, which turn people into stealing and lying and into also violence. Because politics in the Arab region or in the Middle East in particular is very much linked to violence. And people understand that when you do politics, you have to be subject to violence. And women, in particular, when they get into politics, they think that it's okay to be violated, it's okay to be mentioned in the bad words, because this is the price we have to pay for our political participation. So I think all in all, when we talk about women participation, youth participation, it's a democratic struggle. It's a fight for democracy where everybody can sit on the table and have the opportunity of sitting on the table, not because they have the family support, not because my husband or my friend or my family connection. It become the right of everybody to sit in the table. And I want to go back a little bit about the COVID, because COVID also was an equity sensitive. I mean, COVID has deepened the inequity across the world, including the gender inequity. And in this sense, I would like to say, talking about health sector, that 68% of the victims of the health workers who were infected by the COVID were women. So when we talk about leadership, we need to talk about equity. We need to talk about democracy. I mean, training some people will give chance for only minorities to get like us. Like we were lucky that we were able to cross the line and to be active and to do political, but we are minorities and we have paid high prices. In the Arab region, women pay high prices to be leaders. And I debate that now it's in the Arab region, since 2000 or even before, we have this system of the first lady where women needs to be in the group of the first lady to be able to be politically active. And this is also something we have to look into it very, 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 very carefully, because women are not allowed to create their women movement. I would say, this is an example in maybe in Syria, maybe in Egypt, maybe in Lebanon to lesser extent. I don't see it very much in Lebanon because Lebanon is a different case. But also we have to look into the role of the political regime which is controlling the countries. I mean, democracy is the ultimate goal, but it's the road also to have leadership, people who have leadership, and people who has equity and equality in their life. I mean, these things I cannot differentiate. I cannot apart them from each other. And gender equity, I think it's essential here, because I mean, we don't need women to be on the table just because we are feminists. I consider myself feminist, but it's not the only reason because I want women to be there, because women need to be there. Because women on the table, women in decision maker is a condition to achieving sustainable human development, which is in the best interest for men and women. And also in country like Syria, where we have lost a great number of our men, the women participation in economy and politics and education in all aspects of life is essential to build a new Syria, hopefully very soon.
So, what is the role of the international community in supporting such movement?
Okay, international community, they tend to support the only the surface. Like they say, we want to empower women, but they don't support democratic changes. Okay, so I mean, we have to lobby and advocate for the necessity of democratic changes and political life and political freedom in the Arab region. Otherwise, what we are doing is only cosmetic changes. And most of the people who become empowered, they will leave the Arab region and go to Europe or the USA. So it's not, I mean, we need to tackle the roots of the problem. And the root of the problem that we don't have democracy, we don't have rule of law, we don't have equity, we don't have equality. So, I mean, we need to couple the lobbying for leadership and women political participation with the struggle for democracy and needs for a deep-rooted political change in the Arab region.
I think this is a beautiful transition also to go back to Dr. Doumit's personal experience, fighting literally to bring nursing to the front lines, to bring it to the decision-making table, and to hear from you what that was like. What stereotypes did you have to take apart? I mean, what spirit do you have to go in there and change the system and pick up the phone and call people who might be a little surprised to receive the phone call?
Yeah. Before I tackle this point, I would like to add to what our colleague was saying. And I agree with her that change is needed. But we have to all understand that no one would tell us, come on, I will put you on the table. So we have to have our own fight.
I think for our guests who are listening to you for the first time, it would be really nice for them to hear in your own words a little bit about your personal experience, the major milestones in your career, so that they know exactly what expert they're talking to.
You know, يعني أنا بعتبر حالي electioneering and IT expert لأنه I come from a computer science background. بس كمان عندي بروفايل كتير كبير بالsustainable development، بالlocal governance، بشغل بوجودي كعضو مجلس بلدية. صار عندي وايد experience بموضوع local governance، موضوع التنمية، الإنماء المدني، وطبعا كمان بالhuman empowerment. That's one of the things اللي اشتغلت فيهم كتير through NGOs. يعني كل هذا الوقت كنت عم بشتغل على 3 lines in parallel: line of management and IT and التنظيم، والتاني part هو السوشيال ورك، وثالث part هو البوليتكس، electioneering، الميونيسيبال ورك وغيرها. هيدا هيك grosso modo إذا بديك. هيدي الخبرة اللي بعتز فيه بهذه الخبرة هي إنها فعلياً على الأرض. يعني it's not a textbook, something that you learn from school or whatever. It was like هيك من ناحية trial and error، من ناحية seeing الأشياء من so many dimensions. لأنه elections هي هيك أنا بشوفها مثل الجير، في جيرز وموصولين ببعض، وحسب نوع الإلكشن كله بيتجانس مع بعضه. and it's the synergy that is created out of the elections هي اللي بتحدد كيف هي. So yeah, that's my هيك experience. طبعا أنا هلا founder and CEO of The Pulse اللي هي public affairs consultancy company، و social entrepreneur بwings اللي it's a transformative learning community space، و president of Beirutopia, an NGO advocating governance and women and youth empowerment.
Wow.
شبهتي العملية خلينا نسميها العملية الديمقراطية بمثل انغرناج او مثل كذا حلقة متكاملين يعطونا نتيجة او يعملوا التغيير المرجو. فيك تخبرينا شوي عن هالبروسيس؟
يس، وهذا مهم حتى انه يعني نخبر عنه اكثر او نضوي عليه اكثر، لانه هو بتفاصيله اللي بنجح عملية انتخابية أو غير ذلك.
نعم.
ويمكن الناس بفوتها هيدا النوع من التفاصيل يعني الإلكشن ماشين أو الإلكشن كامبينينج بتبلش بsetting the strategy، بتبلش بالcommunication plan of the campaign. طبعا في البارت الإكزيكتيف اللي له علاقة ب planning, scheduling, calendar, budgeting, recruitment of staff and volunteers, training them, legal compliances, IT طبعا له البارت الأكبر، وكل شيء purchasing, logistics وغيرها. هول التفاصيل اللي كثيرة بيكونوا هال-executive core. بيرجع بيجي الماس موبيلايزيشن اللي يعني على مستوى ميدل صرنا والجنرال إذا بدك. and then الكانفاسينج اللي هو من أهم البارتات بالمكنة الانتخابية. بنصير مايكرو ماركتينج، مايكرو تارجتينج، بنروح جيوغرافيك دايركشن، get out the vote، لنوصل للإلكشن كامبينز. وحتى بنشتغل على يعني على شيء على الأرض أكتر، pushing general voters. يعني كل هول التكنيكس والتولز والفانكشنز إذا بدنا نقول مطلوبين لحتى الواحد يقدر يوصل ويوصل بالإلكشن داي الناس أنها تروح تنتخب. الانتخاب في كتير ناس بيكونوا قلبيا بدهم يكونوا معك، بيكونوا بيحبوا يعبروا عن صوتهم، بيكون عندهم رأي، بس really pushing them to go and put that ورقة انتخابية بقلب القلم الاقتراع that takes like بدها steps. وطبعا إيصال الفكرة يعني so مع الميديا طبعا communication ما حكينا عنها بعد.
As a woman who ran and got elected and then managed a major campaign, what are some of the things that came up for you as major struggles, and learning from that, what would you tell people who are interested in following a similar career path?
It's tough. It's يعني it is not straightforward. It's about troubleshooting everything. troubleshooting يعني ما في مثل ما قلت ما في rules، ما في تشيك ليست. يعني بده يكون في high emotional intelligence لتقدري تكوني قدرانة to go with the flow of things. You're dealing with the humans and with all يعني the good, the bad and the ugly of a human nature. كمان بتتطلب انك تكوني يعني you do believe in the good in others، لانه لتقدر تطلع فيهم منهم الاشياء الحلوه. هولي على الصعيد الانساني منا. واكيد في challenges تبع بلبنان it's very challenging، لانه it is not نظيفه خليني اقول. يعني الانتخابات فيها كتير من الفساد، انتخابات فيها كتير من الزبائنية، فيها كتير من الرشوة، المال السياسي، التوظيف الانتخابي، فيها كتير من طيبة قلب الناس كمان اللي بصدقوا شو ما كان. يعني قلة الوعي خليني أقول، ما في وعي كافي للناخب إنه هيدا يعني it's a duty and a right، وإنه هو اللي المفروض إنه هو عم يتحكم بمصيره كاملاً، عم يتحكم بمصيره كاملاً
ومصير بلده
من وراء هيدا الفوت. هيدا الشيء يخفى على الناخب. عدم الوعي بأهمية دوره الانتخابي بحقه والديوتي تبعوله هيدا تشالنج تاني. كومن it is كمان much more challenging يعني مش متعارف كتير بمجتمعنا انه الست تكون يعني حتى العمل العام تبع الست منه كتير متعارف عليه.
الا بالطريقه البرستيج اللي بنعرفها نحن، انه عشاء مثلا محبه او غدا محبه.
ايه، او عمل NGO، يعني بيروح
نعم.
اكثر towards NGO work او charitable او شيء.
خلينا نعمل هيك السيناريو اللي بنحب نعمله نحن اليوم. في نعتبر عنا هالسيناريو صبيه عمرها 16 سنه، فاتحه اكاونت انستغرام بلا ما يعرفوا اهلها، وعم برش تتواصل مع عالم افتراضي غريب عليها، ما في حدا يحميها. علاقتها فيه هي عبر هالشاشه، ان كان الكمبيوتر ان كان التليفون. تعرضت لنوع من نوعا ما ابتزاز خلينا نسميه، او نوع من هالراسمنت. شو فيها تعمل؟ لمين بدها تبلغ؟ مين في يساعدها؟ شو بننصحها؟
ثانك يو انك ضويت على اذا بدك هيدا النوع من العنف حمد، لانه هيدا كتير كمان مرتبط بموضوع الحلقه يلي هو كوفيد، لانه عالميا وبلبنان كتير سمعنا عم بيتزايد الحكي عن موضوع العنف الالكتروني بشكل اساسي ضد النساء والفتيات خلال فتره كوفيد، لانه بهاي الفتره كانت الاونلاين بلاتفورمز هي اذا بدكم وسيله التواصل الأساسية والمتاحة الوحيدة خاصة
نعم.
بفترة اللوك داون وكل هاي القصص. فشفنا ارتفاع كبير بظواهر عنف، ابتزاز إلكتروني، تحرش، ويلي بكتير أوقات ببلش أونلاين وبرجع بينتقل أوفلاين.
معقول نحكي أرقام هون كمان؟
أكيد، يعني كمان بحسب أرقام القوى الأمنية الأخيرة إنه نسب التبليغات كمان زادت تقريبا 300% بموضوع العنف والابتزاز الإلكتروني. والخطير بما إنه ذكر موضوع البنت، إنه أكثر من 40% من التبليغات عم تجي من فتيات، يعني adolescent girls بين 12 و 22 سنة. وهيدا أكبر دليل إلى أنه في شغل كتير مهم لازم ينعمل مع الأهل، لازم ينعمل مع البنات يلي بهيدي الفئة العمرية، لأنه إذا بدكم هن عم بيكونوا أكثر exposed، لأنه قاعدة ورا التليفون. مش بكل الأوقات للأسف الأهل بيبنوا هيدي الثقة مع البنت يلي بتخليها تحس حالها سيف إنه تروح تخبرهم شو عم بيصير معها، خوفها، عدم وعيها، كله بيودي لهذا الموضوع. فنحن كنا اشتغلنا بفيميل كامبين على هذا الموضوع اسمها الشاشة ما بتحمي، وكان هدفها نقول للمعنف انه لو انت ورا الشاشة ومفكر حالك انه ما حدا شايفك، بس you have to know انه صار في means to report you، وانه صار في اذا بدك عقوبة للاشخاص اللي بيمارسوا هذا النوع من العنف. وكمان to provide the girls بالتولز يلي حكيت عنها how to protect herself. حتى رحنا لأنه مثل ما قلت الفئة الأكثر عرضة هن الشابات والفتيات الصغار، عملنا رقصة على تيك توك، يعني حاولنا نوصل لهم المعلومات بطريقة هيك فريندلي لعمرهم. رقصة على تيك توك بتعلمهم إنه كيف حط الباسورد، كيف سكر الشاشة، كيف سكر الكاميرا، كل هيدي القصص. فبعتقد الأساس هو إنه ينشغل basically مع الفتيات والنساء ليعرفوا التولز to protect themselves. وقت بتكون simple tools بس الناس ما بتمارسها، يعني مواضيع لها علاقة بالباسورد، لها علاقة بأنه شو نوع المعلومات اللي شاركها أو ما شاركها، البرايفسي إذا بدكم على كل بلاتفورم. وللأسف ما بيكونوا they practice it لأنه ما بيعرفوها. ف equipping them بهيدي التولز is very important as a first step. وسكند ستيب لازم ينشغل مع الكوميونتي اللي كل وقت بتلوم النساء انه ليش بعتي صور، ليش عملتي، ليش يعني. ونحن على طول بنقول انه لما نحكي عن قضايا العنف الالكتروني بننطلق من مبدا انه هيدا حق للنساء والفتيات. ما بدنا بولا لحظه هيدا العنف اللي عم يتعرضوا له يمنعهم من حقهم بالتواجد اونلاين والاستفاده من هيدي البلاتفورمز يعني. والعنف هو جريمه المعنف مش جريمه اي حدا تاني. فكرمال هيك لازم ينشغل على توعية الأهل، المدارس، الكوميونيتي how to deal مع هاي القضايا. وأكيد في الريبورتينج ميكانيزم، يعني اليوم فيهم تو ريبورت في على موقع isf.gov.lb في خدمة اسمها بلغ، بتفوت وبتبلغ، بتحط البلاغ عن إذا تعرضت لأي نوع من العنف الإلكتروني. ونحن تبعنا كذا حالة وشفنا صراحة في تجاوب مع هيدي المحلات، وتم توقيف كذا حدا كان عم يتعرض لفتيات بابتزاز.
طيب كيف المرأة أو البنت بتعرف إذا الشيء اللي عم what she's experiencing إذا هيدا الشيء harassment إيه أو لا؟
هلا نحن على طول بنقول إنه الخيط الرفيع هو الكونسنت. فأي بنت ما بتحس حالها سيف أو مرتاحة أو comfortable لأي نوع تعاطي هيدا harassment، أوكي؟ وبرجع بقول لك انه الهراسمنت بيتطور بكتير محلات ليصير ابتزاز بمحلات معينه. فبأي لحظه بتحس حالها منا مرتاحه مع الشيء اللي عم بتعيشه، عم بتحس حالها مهدده، عم بتحس حالها خايفه، عم بتحس حالها بخطر. فهيدا بيعني انه شي شود انه اجى الوقت انه تو سبيك اباوت هيدا الشيء اند تو سيك سبورت.
كيف بدها ما تخاف؟ يعني اليوم اذا حدا بتعرفي المجتمعات، وخلينا نحكي دائما نحن بنطلع بلبنان ببيروت وجبل لبنان وبعبدا، خلينا نطلع بلبنان نحن كاطراف كمان، كعكار، كالبقاع، كالامتداد للجنوب. اليوم هالمجتمعات يلي نوعا ما محافظه ونوعا ما بعدها اكثر واكثر رورال، اليوم المرأة كيف هي بهالمناطق تحس حالها انه هي محمية وفي حدا رح ياخذ لها حقها، وتقدر من خلال يعني هالتبليغ انها تقدر توصل للي بدها اياه.
يعني بعتقد هيدي المين تشالنج اللي نحن عم نعانيها. بس بدي اقول شغله حمد، انه موضوع العنف ضد النساء هو عابر بلبنان، يعني عابر لكل المجتمعات، عابر اكيد بالمناطق اذا بدك الاكثر تهميشا والاكثر محافظه بتزيد اكثر النسب. بس للاسف الثقافه الذكوريه بعدها موجوده متغلغله بمجتمعاتنا بالكامل، ببيروت وغير بيروت. فانه وهيدا الشيء عم نشوفه.
It just takes on different forms.
Exactly.
يعني it has the cloak of modernity بس بالآخر it's the same mentality.
Exactly.
بس version 2.0 يعني.
So فهيدي الظاهرة عابرة إذا بدك. هلا مشكلتنا الأساسية هي إنه كيف أول شيء إنه نخبر النساء عن هيدي الخدمات. وكرمال هيك بتشوف كتير حملات كل الوقت للمنظمات، إن كان أونلاين كان أوفلاين، حتى للقوى الأمنية، إنه بيعملوا بروموشن للخط الساخن 1745 لحتى النساء تبلغ. لأنه موضوع إنه نخبر النساء عن السيرفيس هيدا أول إذا بدك ستاب بالنسبة لإلنا. وتاني ستاب بناء الثقة، ويلي هو كتير صعب، لأنه مثل ما قلت بالأول في عدة أسباب لتخلي النساء ما توثق. في الأسباب اللي لها علاقة بالكوميونتي وبالكالتشر وبثقافة إسكات النساء كل الوقت. وكرمال هيك نحن بنقول it's very important إنه to believe survivors, to listen to survivors. يعني بدنا نسمع النساء، ما بدنا نلومهم. يعني يعني هيدا جزء أساسي. وللأسف لأنه ببلدنا بعد مثل ما قلت ما عم نشوف تشدد إذا بدك، أو تشدد بشكل جدي بالعقوبات ضد النساء. يعني بعدنا بنشوف واحد بيقتل مرته بيطلع بعد 5 سنين من الحبس، أو بيقتل مرته وبيروح بيسافر بيهرب من البلد ما حدا بيوقفه، وبيقتلوا بعضهم وسائل الإعلام ليطلعوه ليطلع يقول جريمة شرف. عرفت؟ من أسبوعين صارت جريمة يعني ليليان علاو، أكيد كلكم سمعتوا فيها. ولما كمان اجى بده ينحكى عنا تم هيك اذا بدك اسكات لكل الاعلام انه ما تدقوا هيدي عشيره بالاخر. فكمان الوضع الامني والوسايط وهيدا مدعوم وهون سلاح متفلت، فهيدا كله بيسبب عوامل عدم ثقه. بس بدها شغل، يعني قضايا المساواة بدها شغل. كنت ذكرت احصائيه البنك الدولي، يعني في احصائيه للبنك الدولي واحصائيات تانية بتقول انه to fill هاي gender gap globally you need at least 100 years. وبسبب كوفيد ارتفعت، يعني صارت around I think إذا ماني غلطانة 120 years. فهيدا جلوبالي. فكيف إذا عم نحكي بدول مثل لبنان والدول العربية أكيد بدنا سنوات أكتر. ففي شغل لازم ينعمل وتراكم عمل لقدام. بس أنا على طول هيك I keep hope، يعني بأي إنجازات صغيرة بنعملها أكيد. وعلى طول بقول إنه ما فينا نوقف، ما عنا ترف إنه نوقف قد ما تكون تحديات صعبة.
In your experience, how important is it for women to have this example?
Once they see it, they feel like they're fearless, like they're able to be anything and anyone because someone did it. You know, just one that's what I said. Your biggest challenge becomes your superhero. Once you break out of the chain and you overcome one very big challenge, it becomes your superhero because you're invincible. You did it, you know, and okay, she did it, I can do it. And she can do it and everyone now can do it.
سيرين أنا بدي ركز بدي ركز على هاي النقطة، على موضوع الفيرلس اللي كمان حكت عنه نور. اليوم عنا المجتمع، عنا بنبلش من البيت، من العائلة الصغيرة، الأم البي حتى الأخوة، العائلة الكبيرة، المدرسة أو الجامعة، العائلة الأكبر، المجتمع، عندك الحضارات، عندك الثقافات المختلفة بالمجتمع. هو كله عم بيأثروا، هو كله عم بيحطوا نوع من تشالنج كتير كبير. توصل المرأة حابة تعمل عندها فكرة مبتكرة مثل ما حكينا، بدها تحولها لبزنس موديل، عم بيكون عندها تحديات وحتى عندها نوع من ستيريوتايبينج او نوع من جادجمنت زياده من الفي سيز اللي حكيت عنه النور. بذات الشيء كمان بدها تكفي جامعه، اللي بدها يكون عندها مثل ما حكينا على البارت 2 اللي هي الانوفيشن بالاكاديميك، مثل ما حكينا كمان على الانتربرينورشيب. طيب كيف بدها تكون fearless؟
I will start and I will then give you the floor because it's like your arena, but I would like to say something. As women, and I think the women on this table would agree, I'm sorry, our male counterpart, we were born thinking we're in a box and that this box has 4 sides, one size fits us all, and this is the box. The first thing to do is to teach women that there is no box.
You make your own box.
There is no box. There are no boundaries. There is no something that defines what you are able and not able to perform as a woman. There is no narrative that says who you are and what you're able to do. There is no box. You set the tone for your life. So that's like for me the first step. Like you empower women by showing them that there is no box and they actually can decide what
That's what happens. What happens when you have that mindset and you go out into the world and then you're faced with challenge. You know, for example, I had the same mindset when I was in the States for 10 years before I was here, and I had that mindset. But in the workplace, and I would show up to work without a box, and then I felt like the people around me would mirror the box back to me. Like, you can't be at the table. Literally, you cannot sit at the table because you're a woman. And I had difficulty with that because in my head, of course I should be at the table. I'm qualified, I'm intelligent, I'm ready, I'm present. No, I could see no reason why I shouldn't be at the table. But the colleagues around me and it would reinforce this reality of actually, maybe you're better off making us coffee. And that was really hard for me. So what would you tell these women when, even inside, if they have this belief, but the world around them shows them differently? How would you ask them to fill this gap?
You keep pushing the boundaries till you.
But again, the boundaries هن مش their own boundaries. You just said it. It wasn't your own box. هذا ما كان البوكس تبعك. كان البوكسز تبعهم. So أنت لما you come and realize
that there is no box.
إنه ما في box وهيدا الشيء اللي عم بحطوكي فيه هو البوكس تبعهم هن. لأنه هن they have their own issues and they're scared or prejudgment or they have their own experience or whatnot. You start seeing that this is not your own box, this is their box, and you start acknowledging هذا الموضوع. بس it's not easy and it's a daily struggle. كنت عم تحكي حمد عن challenges. أنت حكيت عن شيء اسمه triple burden challenge عند المرأة. اللي هو without noticing.
No. Can we end early?
Which is about family, career, and culture. And in order to try to overcome هيدا الشيء, education comes in hand. Effective communication is important. Support from the family and awareness to the family. I know that نحن عايشين ببلادنا العربية support of the family وكوننا نساء مش عطول موجود. بس هو لما بكون في عنا رول موديل مثل ما قلتي مثل أسمهان الزين اللي هي كانت الهيد of Lebanese League for Women in Business وهي the founder أو co-founder تبع Aramex, which is it's the DHL of the Middle East. And you see people.
دعايات نور.
Sorry.
عم تعمل دعايات كثير لشركات اليوم.
Well, I'm talking about entrepreneurship. And when you see such women in power working بعز دين الحرب الأهلية and still having a seat at the table, you know that wherever you go, you are able to, through communication, through adaptive leadership, through knowing your metrics, knowing your strength, knowing that this is you and whatever box there is not your box, is other people's box, you are able to
But I still feel
Go
like
around
like I would like to know from you guys this is your comfort zone, your playground. And when you do realize that other people are putting you in their box, what would you recommend for how would you recommend women deal with this?
You know, empowered women empower women. Period.
Yeah.
The more you're empowered, حيكون في حدا around you looking at you and they're like, I want to be that. But how do I get rid of the box? And the more you push boundaries, that person will come to you and you're like, how are you like avoiding the box? And then you're like, there is no box. And you empower them in a sense, you know? And people want change. People are looking to change.
There's no magic recipe.
There's no you have to keep
There's
pushing.
no magic recipe. يعني ما في اجي اليوم انا اقول للعالم اللي عم يسمعونا او عم بيشوفونا انه ايه انا في اطلع من البوكس وبدكم تعملوا هيدول الستبس تطلعوا من البوكس. لا, it's different for every person. It's different على كيف الابرينجينج تبعنا. It's different على الكالتشر او السراوندينج اللي عايشين فيه. لانه ان كنا بلبنان ولا ان كنا بالعراق ولا ان كنا بسوريا كلياته بيرجع لكيف تربينا وين تربينا
قد في سبورت من اهلنا وقد في هيدا
وشو المجتمع تبعنا. لانه مش مجتمع كامل. هو المجتمع اللبناني منه مجتمع هو مزيج مجتمعات, مزيج من الافكار, مزيج من العادات والتقاليد. وما في one solution fit all. It's a process. حتى بالبلاد المتقدمه من باوروبا وبامريكا and you've noticed that ما في this one way of dealing with it. It's more about the tools that we have in order to deal with it. It's not that much. يعني نحن once we know that نحن كنساء يعني we are empowered وخلفك الرأي هيدي خبرية fearless is أنا بالنسبة إلي is not there. يعني أنا قبل ما نطلع على الكاميرا أنا كنت خوفانة, بس إذا هلا عم تشوفيني عم بحكي كأنه ما في خوف, بس هو هيدا الخوف هو اللي بيخلينا شوي for me ما في شيء اسمه fearless. في fear that you are able to turn into positive energy or power. So it's not a negative connotation to have fear. It's something good, and once we embrace it, we can manage it. So
yeah, for me, fearless is more like once you overcome a certain situation, that's when you become fearless of that situation.
Yeah.
So that's what I said. Once you overcome your biggest challenge, it becomes your superhero. Behind the point, you become fearless.
Yeah.
And the more you overcome challenges, the more fearless in these criteria you become.
So in a sense, it's like being afraid, but doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So you take that power, you harness it, and you change it.